Alright, what's up everybody? So, as I sit here doing this video, it's Saturday evening, tomorrow Sunday, second week of the NFL season, and I could care less. Usually I'm doing fantasy football, not doing that this year. Not watching football this year. I did watch a little bit with my brother on last Sunday, but many people are boycotting the NFL, and I think for good reason. The NFL first week ratings are in, and they're down pretty significantly, and I think for good reason. And if people are similarly like me, they are not going to support insanity. Our country right now is insane, and the NFL is part of it. They exemplify it. So, okay, so it starts with kneeling, right? I know there's a lot of there's split views obviously on kneeling. So let me just start with this. You can go to a lot of places in employment, most places I would argue, and around this country, and they will deny their employees the right to do certain things like campaign or proselytize its customers. Okay? So imagine going to a car lot to buy a car, and the salesman comes out, and instead of talking to you about the attributes of the car, he instead wants to tell you how every plumber beats their wife, every lawyer is a tax cheat, or every mechanic has a gambling problem. You know, would you buy a car from that guy? Would you keep that guy employed if you owned the car lot? I don't think you would. Do you really not understand the NFL fan base? When they pay money to show up to a football game, or they turn on the TV to root on their favorite team, and instead are given a mini lecture about how all cops are racist, and because of that, how the country sucks. And this lecture, by the way, is brought to us by a guy who's making millions of dollars, living a great life, all in the same country that he says is racist and he hates. Here's the deal. Colin Kaepernick isn't being harassed by cops. Bubba Wallace doesn't have racists sneaking into his garage planting nooses. And LeBron James isn't hiding in his California mansion fearing for his life. Nobody's saying Colin Kaepernick doesn't have the right of expression, or players like him who are equally frustrated. The thing is that the owners have a right. The patrons, the people who pay to get into the events and pay for all the NFL paraphernalia and the programming and watch, they also have a right of expression as well. And here's the strange thing. Do they even need to do this at the actual game during the national anthem? It's not as if they don't have social media accounts that everybody is aware of, that they can express their opinion and get it out to the masses at will in ways that we've never been able to before. And the media is oh so happy to put a mic in front of their face and ask them their opinions about a lot of things and take what they say and give it to us. So they have opportunity to express themselves other than disrespecting the flag. And look, I don't want anyone to be compelled to pledge allegiance to the flag. I've never liked that. That's not America. So if they want to do that, that's fine. Okay, but this is a sporting event where people are paying, and if they have the right to do that, then so does everybody else have a right to react to it. And here's the thing, excuse us if we're a little confused on exactly what is being said by this act, by kneeling. Okay, I get that they're saying it's a respectful way to sort of be against the country, or I mean, I get the idea of expression. We all should, this is America, we absolutely should be doing this when we're frustrated, when we want to make when we want to set things right. That's how America's supposed to work. So we need to discuss it, we need to get our perspectives out there. I'm all for that. But what is being said? Are you saying the whole country is racist? Is that what's being said? Because that's offensive. And you know, it's like, don't, it's fine, you want to offend people, but understand what you're doing. You're offending people. You're calling the whole country racist. And then you go, you know, I expect to keep a job, I expect to be paid millions still, and if you don't do it, somehow you're racist. Well, you've already said you're right. You've already said we're racist, right? So this is the thing that I think is frustrating, and it's the flag that you're doing it to. It's like you're setting up the black national anthem now. Are we not a unified country? Is there a black country and a white country now? I mean, this is the thing that's confusing to us. Are we trying to segregate? I thought we were against segregation. I thought we wanted to unify together as Americans, and it doesn't matter how much melanin we had in our skin. And the flag that you're choosing to, you know, in my mind, disrespect, is the flag that flew on the battlefield opposite the Confederate flag. I get people frustrated with the Confederate flag stuff because you can understand why they say it represents racism. But how do you say that the flag, the Union flag, that fought that was the banner that fought to free slaves, is racist too? This is the insanity that people like me don't want to be a part of. And here's what I find amusing. The people who don't understand how we feel about it, you know, they say things like, oh, we're just upset that a black man has an opinion that they want to stand, that they have something to stand for. Oh, they say, oh, it's not how blacks take a stance, it's that they take a stance. Or they say, well, I guess blacks are just supposed to shut up and perform for the white people. I mean, have you heard comments like this? That's what is said to people like us who so think about how dripping with racial accusation that is. Again, Colin kneels saying the whole country's racist, and then we go, hey, you know, we disagree with that, and we're kind of frustrated that we keep being called racist, and then what happens with that is that, oh, only a racist would say something like that. Only a racist would feel that way. So, I mean, we can do that too. So here's something. Well, I guess us white folks should just need to sit and listen to how racist we are and pay money for the pleasure. And notice how it keeps escalating, right? It went from defending Colin's right to kneel, and now it's demanding that NFL teams give him a job. So there are tens of thousands of people who are now agents for Colin Kaepernick for free just because he thinks the whole country's racist. Colin has a right to his negative opinion. But by God, we don't want to hear Drew Brees and his positive opinion. So, and people go, okay, so this is about injustice. They're kneeling for injustice. That's what the symbolism is, right? See, at first it was just Colin and a few other players who were doing this. But then something interesting happened. Donald Trump said something very negative about the players that are kneeling. And then tons more players that next Sunday decided they were going to kneel. So is it still about social justice at that point? Is it still about the cops? Is it still about the justice system? Or did it become about Donald Trump? Did these players discover racism coincidentally at the same time, in the same week that Trump had something negative to say? And it's interesting because that next Sunday, the Jaguars and the Ravens played each other in London, and a bunch of players kneeled for our country's national anthem, but stood for God Save the Queen. So this begs the question, do players have the right, when they're on the football field, to make political statements? If that's true, are they denying Trump the right to make comments in the political arena about football issues? Seems a bit hypocritical to me. And isn't this the same league that said that Rush Limbaugh was too controversial to have part ownership in a league, but Jay-Z isn't? So here's the deal. Let's assume they just didn't like the fact that a politician was interjecting himself. I can understand that. But are these players unaware? Aren't they supporting Black Lives Matter? Because if they are they unaware that Black Lives Matter, when you donate to Black Lives Matter, it goes to Act Blue, and that Act Blue takes all those donations and turns them over to politicians? Are they unaware of this? So, and Act Blue gives to Democrats. The Democrat Party is the party that fought to enslave blacks, who created the KKK, and have now created Antifa. And so when people who go out into the streets to peacefully protest for a justice system they feel is not just, Antifa is the organization that is turning these into riots, lootings, and burnings. And it's the Democrat Party that's responsible for this. Do people not understand that when they support BLM, that they're actually supporting the politicians that are in the party that help create the system that they think is racist against them? The month that all social media blanketed everything with Black Lives Matter was the month that Joe Biden's campaign shattered campaign donation records. That is not a coincidence. This is the same Joe Biden who thinks that the litmus test for whether you're black is whether or not you support him for president. Black Lives Matter is a political organization. It is not for black people. It is a Marxist organization that uses the black cause as the point of a spear. Okay, so now the NFL is showing us its wokeness by displaying the names of guys and gals who were victims of police brutality. Black people, Um, do you know how many black kids under the age of 12 have been killed in black on black violence this year? 54. Do you know how many names of those kids will grace the helmets of NFL players this season? Zero. Zero. And remember when the NFL's wokeness was wrapped up in the Me Too movement? You remember that when we were lectured on how we are to treat women? Which is interesting because that was what? That was last year's wokeness and the year before that. But now they have the names of rapists on their helmets. Sorry, alleged rapists on their helmets. So I guess the Me Too movement is no more. It needs to move over because now it's Black Lives Matter. And it doesn't matter that someone possibly raped a woman. All that matters is that person is black. And something negative happened to them in an interaction with law enforcement. Remember when we had to believe all women? I guess that doesn't matter if the person being accused is black. Women now are treated the same as cops. Another thing that bothers me is this thing that the NFL was talking about. And probably most people aren't aware of this, but they were toying around with the idea that if a team hired a black GM, they would get an additional draft pick. Now, I assume that the idea is that black people are so much a part, percentage-wise, of the players that it doesn't make sense that the league wouldn't have a similar amount of black GMs or black people in higher positions. You know, the only thing that makes sense, I guess, is the idea that they're being kept out because the people, maybe the owners, are racist. I guess a racist would stop being a racist for an additional draft pick. I'm not sure how that works. And the idea is, okay, so maybe there's more blacks in the league. There's a percentage, I don't know, maybe it's like 80%. I don't know what the percentage of black people in the NFL is compared to the rest of society. I'm gonna say 80. That's just throwing it out there. I don't know. So maybe the idea is that they should have that representation in the top level. So doesn't it work? I mean, do we keep doing it this way? Because I don't think we would, because I think like 80% of the males in the nation are probably white, and yet they don't make up 80% of the players in the league, right? I guess that doesn't count. So, I mean, imagine that, right? I mean, look at the NBA, and people have said this before. Do you want to do this sort of skin color counting when it comes to making sure everybody has the same amount of certain quotas to meet as far as race is concerned? I mean, where are the Asians in the NFL? Don't they have a beef? Do we only care about the blacks and the whites now? Is that where we're at? See, I kind of like the old days where it seemed like if you were good at something, then they wanted you for that. You know, I look at the NFL and I never go, "Oh, all these black people." I just think they're probably the best at what they do, and whites need to catch up if They need to be better, you know. Whites need to be better. I don't think the NFL's racist and they're keeping white people from being players. This is why I say the country is insane. Everybody's promoting this idea of black, not everybody, but a lot of people are promoting this Black Lives Matter stuff. If Black Lives Matter cared about black lives, they would care about the kids who get killed by blacks in inner cities. They would care about abortion. They would care about black adults who were killed in gang violence. And look, when somebody like me says that, here's what happens, right? the the woke white person in our nation is so proud of themselves. They're so proud of their virtue in thinking that they care so much. And when they hear Black Lives Matter, they think they're supporting black people. Okay, I do think that's true. I do think they are morally, I'm not questioning their morals. I think they care about black people. And so when they hear somebody like me bring up black violence, they think here we are talking about blacks and their needs, and here you are talking about blacks being violent, and that they think I'm racist for saying that. But that's not why we say it. That's not why we say it. Why we say it is because you can't be consistently for black lives. Remember, Black Lives Matter, and not be for those other things. So what happens is when you start and step back and stop looking at everything as race and go, okay, so they say they're for black lives, but they're not for any of these 99.9% black lives over here. They're only for this 0.0 whatever percent who happen to get killed by cops. You see the pattern, right? See, Black Lives Matter isn't for black lives. They're anti-cop. That's the point. They're anti-cop. They're not for black lives. They're just against the cops. Okay? And I happen to think we need cops. I'm not saying the justice system is perfect. I agree it needs a lot of work. I think it needs to be reformed. But one of the ways I think that we're not going to improve it is by just focusing on the cops and not focusing on the lawyers and the judges who are doing terrible things as well. And I also don't think it makes sense to just make it a black issue. The justice system sucks for the poor. That's what it is. And black people, a lot of poor people just happen to be black. The problem we have in our country is we no longer see right from wrong because we're too busy focused on black and white.